Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are all doing all right out there tonight and having yourselves a great evening and a great week out there so far as we're about halfway through it. Pretty active last couple days of the work week, and then into the weekend we could have some active weather too as this system eventually heads off the eastern seaboard. But we got some active couple of days ahead of us, and really tomorrow is probably going to be the most active day as far as severe weather, and then the snow really gets cranked up really tomorrow night into Friday for certain areas. So we're going to talk about it all. There's going to be strong winds with this, severe weather tomorrow. I would say the severe weather event is actually uptrended a little bit for some areas. We're going to talk about kind of an area or maybe an area or two that I think has a sneaky potential to have an isolated spin up, isolated tornado, certainly areas that we need to watch out for. We'll talk about that. There's going to be a risk for severe weather tonight for certain areas of the country. We'll talk about that also, but we're going to get pretty detailed in this video for you folks. Detail meaning for individual geographical locations and states and stuff like that. If you kind of watch these videos and wonder why you never talk about my state, chances are I'm going to mention your state or at least your general area for the lower 48 in this video. We'll talk about snow amounts. We'll talk about who's going to see the worst severe weather, strong winds, everything in this video. As you can tell, there's about a million tabs pulled up. So we're going to figure it out for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It helps to get these videos out there, and appreciate the support even though we're in slower times compared to this time last January. This time last January, my channel was beginning to really pop off, and that was just due to the fact that we had a lot of winter weather to talk about in the South and Mid-Atlantic and just the Eastern U.S. in general. Totally different story this year, but every year is different. So if you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rolling. Let's actually take a look at what's going on right now. You see this spin? Right here in areas of southwest southwest Kansas. We need to get our locations correct. For whatever reason, I keep calling western Pennsylvania eastern Pennsylvania. I've had a couple people mention that. I don't know why I always do that. But anyways, we'll try to get it right in this video for you folks, guys. So as you can tell, you got a little bit of a spin going on, not a little bit, a pretty significant spin going on. That is our developing low pressure that will continue to track across areas of the central U.S. and then across Missouri, then to the Ohio Valley, eventually over areas of the Northeast and Southeast Canada. So this is it. This is our system, and it's going to bring a wide variety of different kind of weather for a lot of people. So we're going to figure that out in this video. Really, as far as watches and warnings, it's not like this is like a massive winter storm. So as you can tell, there's no winter storm warnings out there. You got winter storm watches up for the Tennessee of North Carolina mountains, the higher elevations, really favored with this kind of setup that we're going to talk about. No warnings or watches up for West Virginia as of right now, but I think that'll change as we get into the next 6 or 12 hours. A lot of winter weather advisories up for areas of the interior and northern sections of the Northeast. Winter storm watches up for the far northern several counties of Maine, which I think it could be a decently impactful winter storm for you folks, but nothing that you guys aren't used to up there for sure. But if we zone in to the southern and central Appalachian Mountains, you see these winter storm watches. Areas like Gatlinburg, Roan Mountain, those areas and all the little small communities in these higher elevations certainly have winter storm watches. But as we get into tomorrow, I think there will be winter weather advisories issued for areas of eastern Kentucky, the plateau of Tennessee, areas of western Virginia, West Virginia. I do think that is likely going to be the case, and I think this will get upgraded to a winter storm warning for these mountainous areas of Tennessee especially. And, basically the North Carolina side of the highest mountain peaks in the southern Appalachian Mountains. So we'll talk about that too. We'll actually zone into that area. I've had a lot of people ask me, is this weekend, a good weekend to go to the mountains? And a lot of people keep mentioning like Maggie Valley, Asheville. If you're going to go up to the mountains and do a spontaneous trip, I'll go on and tell you right off the dot, don't go to the North Carolina side of the mountains. Try to get to the Tennessee side of the mountains. And I certainly wouldn't wait till Friday to leave. You might want to leave tomorrow. But anyways, let's not get way off the track with that. But as far as the Storm Prediction Center, we have a marginal risk going on right now, and this is really for tonight. This could be a sneaky event, guys, so please be weather aware if you're in northeast Arkansas, southeast Missouri, southern sections of Illinois and Indiana, western sections of Kentucky and Tennessee. This little area, you guys know all about these nasty severe weather episodes in this region, especially what happened in December of 2021. Take this little small risk, relatively speaking, serious. There is a tornado risk, a very small one. A 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. We'll talk about what the storm mode could potentially look like in the time frame tonight. Later in the video, we're going to talk about the severe weather part of this towards the end, but watch out for this. Then tomorrow, we had the slight risk. But guys, I would not be surprised if this gets extended even further east or northeast. But I'm watching this area of the upstate of South Carolina, guys, even maybe into the foothills of the Piedmont, North Carolina, for some spin-ups. That's going to be the wild card region to watch. I really think tomorrow, for portions of the upstate of South Carolina, maybe even northern Georgia. We'll talk about that here in a second, here later in the video. But if you look, the marginal risk extends almost all the way into the Ohio Valley. There is going to be the potential for some damaging winds as far north as Kentucky. I think some of these storms can pack a punch. It's going to be one of those setups where you could get some strong to severe storms in Kentucky and Tennessee and turn around 12 to 18 hours later, and it's snowing. It's kind of one of those crazy setups that it seems like, we see often, and it's not totally uncommon. It seems like we see it at least once or twice a year, but certainly it's always a shocker when we do see it. It seems like the weather is just much more dynamic and wilder as far as how quick it can change west of the Appalachian Mountains. But we can't discredit the severe weather risk down here. There's a tornado risk, a weird looking one. The reason it kind of does this little thing right here is because you don't get it's not as high as a chance of a tornado in the mountains, guys, and just in general. So basically, I'm sorry, I had something in my mouth there. A little bit of a tongue twister. Basically, in the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, it's obviously higher elevation, and just you lose some of the dynamics, especially what we call the thermodynamics, which is the temperatures and things like that, and the Cape levels, basically, that rise in response to these higher dew points and these temperatures. So in general, not going to be much of a tornado risk in the actual mountains, but as soon as you get outside the mountains, there is going to be a little bit of a tornado risk, a large 2% risk. But guys, I would not be surprised if a 5% risk of a tornado gets issued somewhere in this area. We'll talk about why here in a second. Damaging winds, 15% risk of damaging winds occurring within 25 miles in any given location. That's 50 knots or higher, 55 to 60 miles per hour. Let me get a sip of drink here. Got like a popcorn kernel stuck on my tongue. That's why if you see weird motion from my mouth, that's why. So sorry about that. But let's keep talking about the weather here. Central U.S. This system's cranking up now. We're going to kind of breeze through this. But as you can tell, I'm going to actually look at a radar scope out of Goodland, Kansas. Look at this little spin going on. It's snowing in eastern areas of Colorado, southwest areas of Nebraska, northwest areas of Kansas. So right now, just reporting rain in Hays, Kansas. But if you go to the northwest part of the state, I can guarantee you it's probably snowing in these regions. And honestly, if we go back and we look at what's showing up on the HRRR model, it does a good job of trying to, it's doing a good job considering the fact that it's just a model of pinpointing where the snow and rain's falling. So this will continue. Then the moisture will begin to amplify. And as we get into the middle of the night, if you're confused about the time frame, guys, I know it's really small, but this is 1 a.m. and Eastern time, so this would be 12 a.m. Central time out here. As you can tell, once we start to get after midnight, some storms quickly develop here in southeast areas of Missouri and all those areas I just mentioned just a second ago that has a sneaky potential to see maybe a tornado tonight. And here it is. Watch this area of storms tonight, guys. We really need to watch it. Like I said, southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, the Quad States regions just right in here. Watch these storms. I'm talking 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning tonight. Just watch them. I think there'll be like a 2 to 5 hour window of where these storms could produce a quick tornado. But quickly behind it, as we're getting into about 5, 6 a.m., look at this area. It's not a large area, but an area pretty small compared to, a major winter storm or anything like that. But I think if you just happen to get hit by this band of snow right here, maybe even northeast Oklahoma, eastern areas of Kansas, western areas of Missouri, I think you could get hit pretty decently for about 1 to 3 hours with some heavy, wet snow, as just enough cold air in a favorable time frame of the day, the morning, the coldest time of the day, sets up in Missouri, and I think some snow could be very heavy in these areas of Missouri. And then getting into central Missouri, and this continues, and then we'll go on and flip it to the eastern U.S., and we'll talk about the severe weather threat. So if I just skip over the severe weather threat down here, I'm going to talk about it towards the end of the video also, but I'm really just focusing in on the evolution of the storm in general. But you keep going through the morning hours, and look at this little area of snow kind of moving into central to south central areas of Missouri, and then it kind of diminishes, but there could be more than what it's actually showing. We get into, about the midday, early afternoon time frame. Of course, you got these nasty storms working through the deep south all the way up into eastern Kentucky. A lot of heavy rain in between. And if you keep this going, here's that wild card area with snow. Look as this heavy rain switches to a several hour period of heavy snow potentially for central and especially northern and northeast areas of Ohio. This would be some heavy snow if this unfolds, and this is for later tomorrow afternoon and evening and getting into the overnight hours. At the same time, you already have this backside moisture beginning to get kicked up behind this low pressure and some lake enhanced snow coming off the southern tip of Lake Michigan. This could, deliver a coating of snow for Chicago potentially and all the communities due south of Lake Michigan. And you keep this going, guys, and I mean, there is an area of northeast Ohio where they're actually predicting several inches of snow in these regions. If you actually go back to the watches and warnings, sometimes with pivotal weather and the National Weather Service, even the watches and warnings, sometimes they lag. So I'm not actually, I would be surprised. In fact, I'm going to do this on the fly really quick. So bear with me. And let's actually click this area. And there's no watches or warnings or anything for Northeast Ohio, the National Weather Service out of Cleveland. And I'm really surprised because confidence is pretty high that, we're going to see, and let me see if I can find the right panel here, that we're going to see several inches of snow in Cleveland, points east and northeast. And then I think that this could change to snow in western Pennsylvania, not eastern Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania. And I think areas like Pittsburgh, as we're getting to like after midnight, tomorrow night, and a Friday morning, could have a change to some moderate to heavy wet snow. And who knows, could deliver maybe a slushy inch or two of snow. It's weird because some of these short-range models are indicating more snow than what the National Weather Service is saying. But I always will favor the National Weather Service because they are the professionals and they know more weather than all of us. They got a degree and they know more than we do. But sometimes these little systems right here, these mesoscale features, can dump some really heavy snow when it really wasn't forecasted to happen. So watch out northern Ohio and then into western areas of Pennsylvania. And then some really heavy snow could fall in Buffalo into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow, a Friday morning into Friday throughout the morning hours. And then here comes all this backside moisture showing up for areas of the Ohio Valley, down to Kentucky. And look at all this snow on the latest long-range HRRR model as we're getting into about mid-morning Friday. Look at all the snow all the way into Nashville. Some snow showers, snow flurries as far south as Huntsville, Alabama. And this shows like the Cumberland Plateau getting hit pretty good with some burst of snow. And then here comes that northwest flow snow really kicking up in the Tennessee and North Carolina mountains. And this only goes out 48 hours and takes us all the way to about midday Friday. But snow, blue showing up all the way as far south as North Georgia and North Alabama, guys. So you look at the NAM, kind of same scenario. We keep this going and, isn't as aggressive as the HRRR model on the snow showing up for Ohio, but still shows a similar scenario. And then as we're getting into about Friday morning, a lot of scattered snow showers, maybe some burst of heavier snow. And if you keep this going, this shows the same thing as the HRRR model. If you're in Nashville, surrounding communities, as far south as North Alabama, maybe Huntsville, Alabama, as we're getting into the morning hours and afternoon hours, I think especially if you're in Tennessee and definitely in Kentucky, I think you could get some nice bursts of snow that could put a coating of snow on the ground. And this is trended towards something to watch for in Nashville, Tennessee. This shows on and off snow most of the morning throughout all the afternoon hours and then starts to taper off into the evening hours, but it's still snowing like crazy in the Smokies and the mountains of the southern Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, and snowing like crazy in West Virginia. This shows snow flying around Friday afternoon and evening in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Dayton, Columbus, maybe as far west as Louisville. Buffalo, it's snowing Friday evening, and then this continues for the central and southern Appalachian Mountains. And, it's pretty wild to see, guys. I know I haven't really mentioned much of Maine, but if you're in central to northern Maine, guys, I really think this is going to start as early as tomorrow afternoon, evening, and you guys are going to get heavy, wet snow. It's not going to be a powdery snow. Heavy, wet snow all through the night tomorrow night into Friday morning. And then I think that with the low pressure going all the way into the northeast and all the way up here, a lot of this snow could change to ice or maybe even just flat out rain before cold air ushers in. So now that we went 15 minutes of talking about that, let's talk about individual regions. So Kansas tonight, like I said, it's already snowing in areas of Kansas right now, but the blend of all models is showing maybe eastern Kansas picks up certain areas, maybe an isolated 1 to 2 inches. I think it's possible, especially if this heavier band sets up. We go to Missouri. Missouri's a weird state, guys, and I'm going to talk about why. The blend of all models only shows these areas of Missouri right here, like Columbia, Missouri, maybe picking up just a dusting. Western areas of Missouri and southwest areas of Missouri, maybe just a dusting to a coating, maybe as much as a half inch, maybe an isolated inch. You look at the actual National Weather Service, it's even less aggressive, just not much at all. But if you turn around and you look at the HRRR model, guys, and we can look at the latest one. Let's see if it goes out. This is the latest run that goes out 18 hours. It wants to drop several inches of snow in south central Missouri, especially southwest Missouri. So the only reason I'm showing you this is because, this is kind of a developing thing now. The only reason I'm showing you this is because I think it's kind of possible. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think this much snow is going to fall. Some of these little pink areas right here, that's like almost a foot of snow. I don't think that's going to happen. But you got to watch these little almost upper level low features. This backside moisture can be very intense, and it can be heavy, wet snow. And sometimes it can drop 1 to 2 inch per hour rates. And if you get that in about 2 to 3 hours, suddenly you got almost a half a foot of snow. So this is a sneaky wild card snow area right here in Missouri. And we'll know if this is happening by the time I make a morning video tomorrow. We'll know if this is unfolding. So definitely let me know if you're in Missouri, what you're seeing, especially obviously southern areas of Missouri and southwest areas of Missouri. For my folks in the southern Appalachian Mountains, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, if you're in the plateau of Tennessee, I think certain areas could pick up an inch or two. This area right here, the Cumberland Plateau, I definitely just think it's a tricky area. I follow somebody on Twitter, and he lives on the plateau, and it always blows my mind how his weather is substantially different from areas to his east and west. But this area is higher in elevation. That's a plateau, man. There's some hills, there's some mountains, and this is it's the same thing, but it's totally different than the actual mountains to the east, which range anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air. This is obviously where the heaviest area is going to get hit, but watch out this little area that's kind of built up in higher elevation, the Cumberland Plateau, that extends all the way into northern Alabama. So the blend of all models picking up a half inch to an inch of snow is certainly possible. And then, of course, these higher elevations, the Smokies are going to get smoked with snow. I really do. I think Mount LeConte, even though the forecast for LeConte, I think is 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 inches, I think they could pick up a foot of snow. I certainly think it's possible. It's likely. In Gatlinburg, I'm thinking 2 to 4 inches of snow, probably for Gatlinburg. And then West Virginia, I think several inches of snow is going to fall, especially in the higher elevations. And just to get a little bit closer to the Gatlinburg region, which is right into here, the blend of all models saying 3 to 4 inches of snow, but you don't have to go far. And trust me, I go to Gatlinburg every year. You can actually see the mountains from Gatlinburg, the higher elevations. You can see Mount LeConte. You can see, you got 4 to 6,000 foot mountains right. You're basically in the shadows of them tall mountains. So if you happen to be going to Gatlinburg this weekend, it's going to be a snowy trip. It is. You're going to see snow. But picking up on that plateau right here, look at this. And the reason the snow totals drop right here, guys, if you guys don't know, kind of the landscape, if you will, of Tennessee, of eastern Tennessee, there's a valley right here. And a lot of times this valley, especially the southern areas of this valley, get gypped with snow. Sometimes you make up for it up here, but the reason you see kind of a spike of snow right in here is there's a plateau, and it kind of almost enhances snow in a way, but they always get more snow than other areas. So Definitely somebody's gonna pick up a sneaky 1 to 2 inches in this plateau of Tennessee into Kentucky. I definitely think it's possible to likely. Ohio, a sneaky region right here. Now listen, the blend of all models doesn't show much snow into central Ohio. Not much snow into southern Ohio. As soon as you get into the northeast Ohio, and then western areas of Pennsylvania, I think Pittsburgh could pick up an inch of snow, maybe more. Erie's going to get hit with several inches of snow. Some of these areas, this is their first snow since the blizzard of Christmas. So I think Cleveland's going to pick up. They might get shy of maybe 4 to 5 inches of snow. You look at this and then you compare it with the actual National Weather Service forecast, and they match up pretty darn well. They really do. But if you look at the HRRR model, the latest long range, and it's going to show some crazy scenario. Not really crazy, but it drops more accumulating snow further south. And if you're wondering why I skipped Indiana, I think I did. And I definitely did not mean to. Let's see if we can. Indiana. I didn't want to just skip you guys, but yeah, if we keep going further out, Indiana, for example, I definitely think y'all are going to see some snow, but I think it's going to be from that backside moisture during the day Friday. So I didn't mean to skip you folks. Chances are, if you're viewing for Indiana, you're already mad and probably already quit watching. But I'm trying my best, guys. There's a lot of states to cover, and this video is getting long already. But look at the HRRR model for Ohio. Sneaky event. This in Missouri is kind of one of those sneaky states that could pick up more snow than forecast. We'll watch it. It'll be interesting to watch the dynamics of this storm unfold for sure. The Northeast, several inches of snow will likely fall in northern Maine. Some of the higher elevations will get snow in Vermont and New Hampshire. But if you're in the valleys, it's going to be all rain. Maybe an initial burst of snow at the beginning. But this isn't just a Northeast storm. It really isn't. The low pressure cuts right over you guys. Really hits you guys with a lot of warm air advection is what we call it, the surface. But a lot of ice, not a lot of ice. A widespread area sees a lot of ice. So a glaze of ice is possible in the same areas. It can pick up a few inches of snow. So definitely be mindful of the icing event with this too. So let's talk about the severe weather, guys. First off, let's talk about what could happen tonight. And this is this little area right into here that we need to watch. There's going to be some spins. I know I just mentioned it already, but watch out. Like I said, just after midnight for you folks in this region right into here. Some of these storms will be spinning with the low pressure kind of popping off over here. There'll be enough what we call kinematics to put a spin in the atmosphere. Not a lot of thermodynamics, which is those higher temperatures, higher dew points, higher CAPE levels. But it's kind of like a cold core setup, but in the middle of the night, which means you have enough spin in the atmosphere. Definitely enough. But is it going to be enough to make a substantial tornado threat? Not sure. Let's hope not, because this is going to be in the middle of the night where most of us are asleep. So watch out for these little clusters of storms right into here in southern Illinois after midnight all the way to sunrise, and definitely be careful. Then this turns into a more widespread rain, heavy rain, and some of these will be strong to severe storms too. But as we're going here, we watch this line of storms begin to develop tomorrow morning, as early as tomorrow morning. In fact, they'll probably work through Nashville tomorrow morning. I don't think there'll be much in the way of any storm initiation in Memphis, but once you start to get into Nashville, down to Huntsville, down to Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Montgomery, I definitely think you could deal with some storms tomorrow morning. But these move through, I stop it right here. This is midday tomorrow Central Time, and the storms are rocking through areas. And be careful. Listen, there could be a small tornado threat in northern Kentucky too. Just some individual cells, low pressure really close by, whipping up a little bit of a low-level jet. Be careful in Kentucky for a little bit of a tornado threat. Northern Kentucky, all of Kentucky. But really the main threat is with this line of storms right here. And watch out for this, what we call prefrontal convection that could fire up in a little bit of a moist sector down here. Temperatures will be spiking down here. Dew points will be rising. There's a lot going on, guys. It's a lot. It looks like there's more that's going on than what it looked like a couple of days ago, especially with a severe weather threat. But we're working through about early afternoon. Storms are moving through Birmingham around 1 to 3 p.m. You got to watch out for some isolated spin-ups along this line. More so just a damaging wind threat in eastern Tennessee. These same areas that are seeing storms tomorrow afternoon in eastern Tennessee will turn around and see a little bit of snow. Maybe a lot of snow, depending on if you're in the higher elevations or not. So it's just one of those weird events. But I stop it right here. And what I want you to notice here is these storms are, one, knocking on the doorstep of Atlanta, Georgia at around 3 or 4 p.m., getting really close and knocking on the doorstep of Montgomery, starting to move into western areas of the Panhandle. But this little area right here is what I'm concerned about tomorrow afternoon. It's a favorable time period for storms in this area, and you got to watch out. And even some more initial cells beginning to develop behind this line. You got to watch out for some spin ups with this as the cold air aloft begins to work in, but there's still enough dynamics at bay. But watch out for these little cells, and they might not be little, but any prefrontal cells, Columbia, the Greenville, Spartanburg, up to Hickory. Be careful with these storms tomorrow. They could be spinning. An isolated spin up or two are not out the question. We call this a mini tornado alley, the Carolina Tornado Alley, here in the South Carolina, North Carolina areas, right into here, the 85 corridor, Interstate 85. Watch out. So these storms will move through. If there's not much of a tornado threat, and let's hope there's not, as we get into tomorrow evening, these are blasting through Charlotte, Greensboro, Columbia, knocking on a doorstep of Raleigh, probably a little bit later into the nighttime hours, and then they make their way off the eastern seaboard as we're getting into the wee hours of the morning, Friday morning. Here comes the colder air ushering in with some snow falling in behind it. But, you know, I really want to watch for this area right into here, guys. I really do. It's a favorable time period. It's getting into about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You see these little cells? They almost have that little bit of a kidney bean look to them. Greenville, Spartanburg. Just watch out for the foothills areas of North Carolina. Something enhances a spin in this area. We haven't quite figured out why. Maybe something to do with the change in terrain or something. But there's always a mini little favorite area for tornadoes in the upstate of South Carolina and North Carolina. And we keep this going, and any prefrontal cells that form in front of this is an additional tornado threat outside this line. But I do still think the dominant threat tomorrow is damaging winds. But we keep this rolling here. Just be careful. If you're in this area right here tomorrow, I think that there could be a sneaky tornado threat right here in this portion of the Carolinas and maybe even North Georgia. But then this blast through, and then a rain change in the snow. It's crazy. You got severe storms potentially still ongoing in the eastern Carolinas, and then it's already starting to snow in the mountains, which we've seen that before. Not totally uncharacteristic of the Carolinas, but this is the significant tornado parameter. Don't look at these crazy blue and purple colors and freak out, but just think of this as there's favored areas for spin-ups in these higher tornado parameter numbers, 3s and 4s in Georgia, and then getting into upstate South Carolina. So there will be an area to watch for some severe storms that could produce some tornadoes in these areas with a significant tornado parameter really spiking tomorrow afternoon, really right into here. You see how they're like kind of just individual? That worries me because it's trying to pick up on some cells. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few tornado warnings in South Carolina, North Carolina, even Georgia tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Winds, it'll be very, very windy, guys. So I think that even ahead of this storm, the winds will be kind of whipping through pretty good. So basically, anybody in the eastern U.S. tomorrow could see anywhere from 15 to as much as 35 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts tomorrow, especially if along this line. But even if you're not being affected by storms, even behind the front, it'll be gusty. In front of the front, it'll be gusty. Behind the system will be windy. And yeah, just a lot of winds with this system. The winds will be screaming up in the higher elevations. But that's all I got, guys. It's almost a 30-minute video. Hope you guys got the right amount of information out of that one. I'm pooped. So God bless all y'all. Stay safe. I'll give you one last update tomorrow morning and try to figure out this storm system for you folks. God bless all y'all. Have a great night.